Fatigue is part and parcel for so many of you going through a spiritual awakening, especially if you're also in a thrust of a Kundalini awakening. But it doesn't have to be like that. Fatigue sometimes can be caused by a lot of energy. When we have a lot of energy, when we have a lot of stores of energy, or we are receiving a lot of energy, what is happening when we are not applying that energy, so we are not then using that energy, the energy starts to build up within us, making us tired. So we can feel tired, not because we're lacking energy, but actually because we are processing an overload of energy. Not only are we processing that, but we are literally keeping it, or you're hoarding it without spending it. When that happens, you're likely to experience even a burnout. You're likely to experience resentment when you see other people doing what you already know. You're likely to feel bitter, to feel really pissed off with the others or the world. You might have anger coming up. You might feel so lethargic that you don't feel the will to carry on. You might feel that, you know what, I want to shut this spiritual awakening. Maybe I'm not even spiritual awakened. Maybe this was all just a lie, and maybe there's nothing that can really change. So you start to negative self-talk. You start to self-doubt. But actually, you're sitting on a treasure trove of an abundance of energy that simply needs to gain traction. When that energy gains traction, so it's a bit like you have an idea, you start, or you don't start it, or you procrastinate because you're scared. Maybe you're scared that it doesn't amount to anything, or that you have no value, you may not have anything that someone else may want from you, or maybe you've been so used to living a life self-relationally that you're unable to revere yourself as the self. Yeah, so that way, whatever it is, you've accumulated a dearth of energy. This energy is begging for expression. It is begging for us to do something about it. You can burst into creativity. You could have an idea. You could think about what it is that you could do if you had a lot of energy, and you go for it. Now, when we already have a lot of energy, yeah, and we're not using it, but we carry on with our spiritual practices, our meditation, whatever it is, whatever tools you're using, and you feel that maybe I need to be doing more of this because maybe that's what's going to bring me out of my lethargy, out of my fatigue, out of my exhaustion. Maybe I need to do this. But actually what you're doing is you are re-energizing yourself, and you're getting more energy on top of energy. This is where some of you become ungrounded as well. The fatigue comes in. So though for that moment you might feel, oh wow, I feel so great right now, but it doesn't last long. It lasts as long as there is still motion, as long as there's still movement. But the minute you shut down the movement, you start to feel like you are shutting down. The next reason why we have a lingering fatigue at times with the spiritual Kundalini awakening is when we are not stepping into our authenticity, which must take precedence over and above anything. Our authenticity means you can respond to whatever situation life presents. You can respond to anything, even as something where you feel, I don't want to be around toxic people, toxic places. I don't want to be involved in helping X, Y, or Z. I don't want to make myself so available because it drains me. And what drains you, is that you feel hard done by your over availability, because you're unable to value yourself and therefore not stepping into your authentic self. So stepping into our authentic self does not have any conditions that qualify you into walking your authenticity, bar one, and that is identifying what it is that you are. What are you and how do you want to project yourself onto the canvas of existence, making that existence part of your everyday reality? It could be that your authenticity comes across as rude or comes across as being too frank. Yeah, but there will be some who will appreciate you being like that. For some of you, authentic means different things for different people in how it is projected. But authentic in itself is exactly just that same thing for everybody. Is for you to work from your essence in as far as you are aware at any given point. Because your essence will only unravel itself to a certain degree incrementally, or for some of you, it may have fully unraveled itself, in which case you're able to live off of and from the very essence of you, which is actually what we would call the God essence of you. Yeah, there is no God that is outside of us. There is no divinity that is outside of us. The other reason why we get so fatigued in a spiritual awakening. Now, when we know it is time for us for self-care, we want to indulge in it. We don't do it because we feel that we are overindulging in something which requires us to say no. So we say we don't want to do it, and instead we allow ourselves to burn out. The other reason we burn out is when we keep agreeing to live under a false persona, a false matrix, or a system that you know is not you. When you continue to make everything else come before your authenticity, come before your essence, then however you are living right now is going to keep reflecting back a state of frustration with a system, a state of not being able to bloom as you are, because you're then stuck in that loop of blaming or feeling that it is the situation outside of us that is not allowing us to bloom in our authenticity, when in fact it is hidden barriers inside of us that are not allowing us to come in. And it is easier to just blame somebody. It is easier just to say, well, you know what? I was treated in such and such way, so I still have some trauma inside of me. Or, how long are we going to keep that? Yeah, you can change that in a split second, but you have to make being your authentic self a habit. Become accustomed to it. Become used to being this new version of yourself, which isn't even a new version, but it was a version of yourself that was yourself. As soon as you let yourself free of this concept that you're carrying of what you should be, your fatigue will start to leave. When you start to simply be as you are, yeah, not chasing after an imaginary you, not chasing after this, wanting to fit in or to be approved of. Even as someone who is spiritually awakening, there are different levels to your awakening. You will come at a certain point, and yes, it's going to get frustrating at certain times, because you may feel, well, you know what? I am vibing in this way, but why aren't those around me reflecting that? Why do I still find myself? And we will give ourselves reasons like, maybe I was placed there because maybe I am the healer that is required to be there for those around me. Yeah? So our mind will give us all sorts of reasons that move away from this, and you will find that you keep getting fatigued. For some of you, you'll keep getting fatigued because you feel that you're providing a service, a selfless service, which is taking you away from you because you keep burning out. When you are in tune with the rhythm of your energy, you're in tune with how you feel, you're in tune with the kind of places that you go to, and you feel a certain way, you know what you need to do. You will make a deliberate effort to self-isolate, for self-care. Not because you are being selfish and you don't want to socialize, or that you're sort of avoiding other people. In fact, most of the times you're not trying to avoid life, you're not trying to avoid things, but it's the overload of you experiencing different energies that then completely fatigue you. But folks, when you are in tune with your authentic self fully, that will emit a certain frequency that will be able to dissipate all the incoming, like psychic attacks, all the incoming energy. That's when you are at your level. Yeah, when you are at your level, very rarely will anything be able to penetrate that. And in that case, things like fatigue will start to simply disappear. You will know, I'm getting tired, maybe it's time to regroup, maybe it's time to recuperate. So folks, your spiritual awakening fatigue, your Kundalini awakening fatigue can be attributed to a presence of access energy that requires your authentic self to kick itself into action, giving it traction and motion, so that that energy is now expended in the highest possible way that represents the most accurate version of yourself right now, having experienced this awakening, and not the false persona you may have identified with before now.